Hello, dreamers! Welcome back to the Dream Journey. So, I am going to tell you about a dream I had the other night. It was in two parts, but I'm just going to tell you the first part, and it's going to be long enough, like several minutes. But I'm going to start with a real life event that's kind of in the dream, and there's a bit of explanation to it. So, about close to 5 years ago, I got a book published by Lighthouse Christian Publishing, and it was a memoir, like, the seizures I have now and the phobia. I had that to a very, it was bad, but a little bit lesser degree, bigger seizures, but smaller phobia, so it didn't seem as bad in no way. Several years, when I was 13 it began and didn't end until I was 16. It wasn't diagnosed till I was 16. And then pretty much right when I was 16 till I was 31, till I was 32, I didn't have any seizures and pretty much no phobia. And no phobia for 13 years. It was excellent. And long story, but anyway, I went off my medication and it came back. And it has not gone away with medication or anything. So I wrote this book about how when I was younger, when I had that, I got really mad at God, and I abandoned him. And so anyway, and I have 20/20 hindsight, sort of, about how, and I wrote this book in the 16 years that I was in the 16 years that I was doing okay, and then a little bit whenever it started getting worse again. And about how I was so mad at God, and so my hindsight's that, I could have handled it so much different. And so anyway, I realized about a year ago that I wrote some things in that book that I did not like, and Lighthouse would not publish the new edition. And so, or without some money up front, and I didn't want to have to pay that. I wanted to have a new publisher, so I asked them to remove my book from their publishing list, which I wanted to do anyway for a few reasons, because it was only sold online, and I didn't think that was awesome. And so anyway, I removed it, and I've been looking for a new publisher. And okay, so with that in mind, I'm going to tell you my dream. And the significance of this dream, not significance, but is that sometimes we have dreams and we have multiple interpretations to them. Or that's what we come up with, and we're like, which one's the right one? Or maybe that shows that nothing that I interpreted is right in this dream, and so we're confused. So I was at some K-12 school in the USA, which is kind of weird, and that's different than my university dreams. Total different symbolism. So anyway, if you've heard me talk about that. So I was visiting teachers and parents I knew, or teachers anyway, because I was an adult. And I was visiting Mr. Murkowski, the principal, or a teacher. He was actually my principal and teacher in Edam, where I grew up, and I really liked him. I thought he was an awesome teacher. So anyway, all of a sudden a train of middle-aged ladies, we were sitting in the lounge or something, and they came by us, and they were parents of some of the students, and they were singing, a train of 4 or 5 ladies. They were singing some kind of song, and it was to show appreciation to Mr. Murkowski for being such a good teacher, and some other woman teacher that was sitting and talking with us. I didn't know her, but she was sitting and talking with us. And Mr. Murk then said to me that he had read Abandoned by You. And I knew in my dream he meant the first version, which I did not think was so good. And it said that I was off my medication, Lamictal and Dilantin, which in real life I am on at the time I wrote the book. But I was when I did the revision. And I wanted to revise that. That was the biggest point of my revision. So I was kind of embarrassed. That was my internal feeling. And then I felt worse because it was actually the time of day I was supposed to take my Lamictal dose, or one of them. And I was like, well, I definitely can't let him see me take my Lamictal dose. And there was all of a sudden, I don't know if I noticed it before, there was a pulpit in the lounge or whatever. And I went to this pulpit and I dumped out my little pill bottle on the pulpit, and all of the pills were like crushed up and they were like dust. There was a few pieces that were like kind of almost normal sized, but most of it was just crushed up. And I remember I was standing kind of like to block him from seeing that I had the pills, and also there were some students I think in the room and I didn't want them to see either for some reason. And so I was blocking him from that, and I just really, I took my pills, and I still kind of felt a little bit ashamed. And that was the end of my dream. So in my dream, I know that the Abandoned by You, that symbol, was significant, and the first edition of it. I know that Mr. Murkowski was probably significant, and that it was a K-12 school. I don't think I've ever dreamt of a K-12 school, especially not, I have a couple times, but that I was an adult. I wasn't like going back to school. And yeah, it was kind of, there were a lot of symbols in the dream, but I don't really know what the symbols are, which sounds a little bit like a cop-out because I didn't try to interpret them. But I had 3 possible interpretations that really kind of jumped out at me. One was that I should tell more people what's going on with my seizures, because it seemed like I was obviously hiding it, and I should tell more people that yes, my seizures, if you knew that I had them before, they came back, and it's embarrassing that I thought I was right, but I was wrong, or whatever. And so they came back, or just telling someone that I am scared of open spaces, but I don't want them to act funny around me. That's part of the pride, I guess. I once told someone that I used to have seizures whenever I finally had stopped having them, and there was no fear, there was no problem. And I told him that, and he was freaking out that I needed somebody to watch me. And I was like, no, that's not why I told you, guy. So I don't want that to happen. So that was one possible interpretation. Possible interpretation 2 is the same. Why have you hidden your current struggles with seizures? Sometimes it comes out in the form, it feels like God's talking to me. And that sounds maybe to you a little bit crazy, but that's what it was. So why have you hidden your current struggles with seizures / phobia? I think it meant like, why have you hidden it from, why have you not written about it? The end of the new edition was that in real life, that I was like, yeah, I still struggle with that, still have panic attacks sometimes and seizures sometimes, because sometimes it's both, even though they look very similar, but I know I just have a feeling they're different. I can tell. And so it's just like, why don't you write about that in your, so it says, write about that, where I'd been, and write about the fact that, like, I was like, yeah, I'm at the end of it. I was like, I'm going through the second round of it this is what I wrote in my book. I was like, and I have so much better perspective on things than I did when I was a teenager, especially in relation to God. And so, but that's not entirely true, because then I started going through it really bad, and of course, it's horrid. And I get confused, and I bawl my eyes out. And God was telling me that, one, I can write about some of that. I don't have to hide that, and write the truth. I'm usually quite transparent with I'm angry with God, or I'm so confused. But in my book, I really kind of haven't been, to write that I'm having a hard time trusting God, not trusting, I often try to go on iron or different kind of supplements, and supplements aren't wrong at all, but I have this feeling from God that's saying, you let me take care of it, and in my way, and it will be gone, but you have to let me take care of it. You follow what I say, and God hasn't told me to go on supplements. So I'm right now not on them, but then I get these ideas in my head. Oh, the other one was that you are acting like you did with seizures in high school. That was the third interpretation. So sometimes those interpretations, as you can see, are all pretty similar, but sometimes you can get interpretations that are quite different. Like one time I dreamt about some crazy thing that I was getting away with, pretending to somebody, that's what it was, faking something to someone, and I actually got away with it, and I was surprised that I got away with it. And in real life, I had been kind of thinking I could get away with something. I wasn't gonna try to screw any system, because God would not be cool with that, but I was just like, I could get away with this if I wanted to. And so I said it was possibly that interpretation, and one other person that interprets dreams as well told me, I have a totally different interpretation. And then she said, possibly both of them are right. You are thinking about that, but about Netflix, but getting away with, it was something to do with Netflix. But on a bigger level, it's this other issue about prophecy. And I was kind of like, oh, interesting. So these 3 interpretations that I have, like maybe I should finish writing my book, and that is telling people what I have. So maybe that is telling people that I know what's going on, people in person, but maybe also is telling people through my book, and that I am acting like I am in high school. So whether that is write that down or just be aware that you are acting like you did in high school, and it is not cool. And your pity parties, and you're just going around in circles like the Israelites did, and it's just, you got to stop at some point, and you're not. So if you have a dream that has multiple interpretations and you're so confused, sometimes it's supposed to be like that. At least that's what I think. So take heart. See you later.